I think going back to Limina for familiars past 275 is kind of cringe. You know you can get better EXP rates in Grandis, but here you are just sitting there farming familiars and it feels so unrewarding because you're not going to hit. So if we are forced to farm familiars, then so be it. At least with characters like Shadower and Night Lord, you can make like a second character to farm familiars, or you can use your main if you're already one of these mains. And if you are one of these mains, you're lucky because we have very lazy rotations in Limina. Today I'm going to show you a really lazy rotation. It's basically almost one button. It's more like one spot standing still, but it's awesome. I first got inspired to make this video by a YouTube KMS creator, and so I saw they were using this particular rotation in another map, and I was like, maybe we can try it out at 1.7. 1.7 in Limina is objectively the best map in Limina because, one, it has the highest mob spawn. The only thing that ties it is 1.6, but the thing that is better about 1.7 over 1.6 is that I would say it's an easier layout in terms of map layout, but even that aside, you get more EXP from the mobs. The mobs in 1.7 have a higher base EXP, and so to compensate for that, the mobs are going to be a little bit more tanky. And so if your Meso Explosion is struggling a little bit, you can still farm this map, but you're just not going to be able to pull off this particular rotation. I think you need 2-shot Meso Explosion, maybe 3-shot Meso Explosion can pull it off, but only you can be able to test that, right? So I'm going to show you how I do this rotation. If you got the juice, if you're this strong, then maybe you can use this rotation and test it out. So I place Shower on the left, Dark Flare in the middle, and I stand on the right side rotating these 3 skills: Trick Blade, Sudden Raid, and Shadow Veil. Usually we use Shadow Veil during our loot cycle just because we need something to still kill the mobs on the other side, while we go to the opposite side and go loot the Meso, replace the summons, yada yada yada. However, for a rotation like this, we're actually taking advantage of Shadow Veil during our main mobbing cycle, so that way you can still clear mobs while you're waiting for other skills such as Trick Blade and Sudden Raid to come off cooldown. Then when we go to loot, we can take advantage of Shadow Assault because we didn't use Shadow Assault at all during our main mobbing cycle. And so that allows you to be very lenient with your Shadow Assault. You can basically use all of your Shadow Assault stacks and it'll be fine during your loot rotation because you just wait another minute to go replace your summons and you'll be fine. Here's the exact skill rotation for your mobbing cycle. So after placing the summons and returning to your rest spot, the first skill you're going to use is Trick Blade. For the next spawn cycle, pop Sudden Raid. Trick Blade should be up again, so use that now for the next mob spawn wave. And then after that, both Trick Blade and Sudden Raid are going to be down, so for the next spawn wave you're going to use Shadow Veil. Shadow Veil will stay for 2 mob spawn cycles, so don't use Trick Blade or Sudden Raid yet. Wait for Shadow Veil to complete its work, and then for the next mob spawn wave after Shadow Veil has completed, you're going to pop Sudden Raid. For the last spawn cycle, use Trick Blade and then go loot. Obviously after you pop all of these skills, you're going to be wanting to use Meso Explosion, so it's kind of like skill, Meso Explosion, skill, Meso Explosion, so that way you can get a full clear. So the kind of general framework that we're going with is that if you have Trick Blade and Sudden Raid up, you're going to want to use Sudden Raid over Trick Blade just because Sudden Raid's cooldown is longer, so if you can use that first, it'll come back quicker. And then other priority is using Trick Blade, and if both of those are down, then you're going to be using Shadow Assault. So make sure you get that ingrained in your mind because if you deviate from this rotation, you might find it hard to recover your rotation if you want to maintain a full clear. So honestly, I think this rotation is very fun. I first tested it out in lab, but I figured, maybe it's going to work for other mobs too. Like as long as your Meso Explosion is 1-shotting or 2-shotting even, you're going to be fine. But yeah, like I said, downside to 1.7 is that the mobs are very tanky, so even at almost 40k stat and I'm over leveled from the mob, so I get all of that final damage, my Meso Explosion is still very almost one-shotting. It's struggling a little bit, but I feel like if I pop G skills, maybe use Epic Adventure and what's the other skill? The burst skill. Oh, Ready to Die. What is that called? It's on the tip of my tongue. Last Resort. There you go. If I use those skills, I can make my Meso Explosion stronger, but you know, even without the guild skills, sometimes my Meso Explosion was 2-shotting. So here's a tip if you guys are going to be using this rotation and your Meso Explosion is maybe 2 or 3-shotting. So some advice if your Meso Explosion is 2-shotting or 3-shotting is don't pop your Meso Explosion right away. You need to give your skills time to do their work and kill the mobs that they need to kill, so that way after that's done, you can focus on using Meso Explosion only on the mobs that you need to kill. If you're going to be using Meso Explosion like right away after you pop those skills, then maybe your Meso Explosion is going to be targeting a mob that is just about to be killed by one of those other skills, and so you're wasting your Meso Explosion projectiles by being impatient. You really want to give yourself that time to just relax, especially with a rotation like this. It should be relaxing, and so you shouldn't be like spamming Meso Explosion, you know? So that's my advice, is basically just pop skill, wait a few seconds, use Meso Explosion, because that's going to allow your Meso Explosion to do its work that it needs to do. So if you are a fan of this rotation, go ahead and try it out in any map that you want. You can make it work in a lot of maps, even the midpoint maps. I did want to release a video on maybe the midpoint maps, but I figured if I did an in-depth explanation of this rotation, you guys can figure it out on your own. I think I might try making some YouTube shorts. I've been experimenting with making YouTube shorts farming videos. If you guys like that, check them out. And if I do test the midpoint maps, I will make videos for YouTube shorts. So that way you guys can get those rotations as well. So let me know in the comments if you do try the rotation. I'm interested in always learning about more farming maps, more farming rotations, but this has been MapleBinch. Check me out on Twitch every week. I'm giving you juicy Shadower content. So check that out. Later, Binch.